Hello, Marvelites. I'm Angelique Roche, and it is my ultimate privilege to host this spectacular live stream brought to you by PlayStation and Marvel, where we will be presenting an extended look at PS5 gameplay for Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. I don't know about y'all, but I am beyond ready to see some Miles Morales web swinging action. And if that weren't enough, we actually have a couple surprises lined up for you. So make sure you're staying tuned in. So speaking of, I am not doing this alone tonight. I would love to welcome two amazing guests who just happen to know a thing or two about this game. James Ham, senior animator at Insomniac Games, and Brian Horton, creative director at Insomniac Games. James, Brian, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having us.
It's great to be here.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for this. There's so much excitement. I've seen both of you online and just hype every single day about all of the goodness that is coming folks' way with the release of this game. I want to ask a couple questions before we get to the gameplay. Particularly because I love this game so much, and I know it is bringing folks who are game fans, but also folks who are Miles fans, but also folks who are just like, this is so incredible and so beautiful. James, for those who might be newer to the behind the scenes of game development, can you break down your role as senior animator?
So I am a senior animator on Spider-Man Miles Morales. And with that, that's giving life to the character. That's bringing all the nuances that bring him to life, from the swinging to the combat to cinematics. That's the role of an animator. It's the art of movement and making sure that he feels unique and he feels realistic in this Spider-Man world.
I will have more questions in regards to that later. But for you, Brian, tell us a little bit about your role as creative director on the game.
Well, I have the privilege of working with talented people like James and many others to craft a vision for this game. We work closely with our partners at Marvel Games and SIE to do that. But ultimately, Insomniac Games, we're passionate about this character. Brian Intihar introduced him in the first game, and it was just been my honor to be a director working with all the talented people, the artists, the designers, the animators, the sound designers, you name it, the actors that are involved in making a video game.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because for those who are familiar with Marvel Spider-Man for PS4, we did meet a teenage Miles Morales. We find out he has some Spidey powers, and we get a little bit of a chance to play with him in Marvel Spider-Man for PS4. But now this game really is bringing Miles to the forefront. This is a Miles story, and he is on his superhero journey. For both of you, and for folks who are extremely curious, where are we finding Miles, and what, if anything, has evolved since we first met him?
So we saw Miles as a kid who's enthusiastic, he's a big fan of Spider-Man, and he happens to run into him through tragedy. His father dies in that game, and Peter sort of takes him under his wing, introduces him to Aunt May, and he works at Feast, so he volunteers. But he has the spirit of a hero already. So when he's bitten by a spider, we get to see him get these amazing powers. He reveals those powers to Peter at the end of the first game. And then in this game, we're about a year later, and we get to see Miles' coming of age superhero journey as he's really on his own. And we get to see that he gets to understand and meet all the people of Harlem, which is his new home. And that's the people he's fighting for.
That's amazing. And for you, James, I also know, like, this has been a year, and so this has been a year that he has had a chance to be a little bit more into his powers, figure those things out, and I think that's really come across in the game as well. How has he evolved in that aspect?
Well, in the beginning, we wanted to make sure that he definitely felt different from Peter, but we also wanted him to feel like he aspired to be Peter. He always looked up to Peter. He was a fanboy, and trying to find this balance of him being in this role for a year now, and trying to have that balance of inexperience, but also feeling like, hey, I am Spider-Man. I have to do this. This is my responsibility to be Spider-Man, to be a hero that I need to be.
So it would be putting it lightly to say that fans are eagerly awaiting the release of this game. I know I am. What are you most excited for fans to see when they get their hands, when the download is done, when they've put in the game into the system? Like, what are you ready for? Like,
Well, I just can't wait for the fans to see all of the nuances that we put into the character. He really does feel like he's his own Spider-Man, and he's going to have his own personal journey. So I'm really proud of the story that we're telling. It is a story of Miles Morales, a kid trying to learn about his new home, and he's also Miles Morales, the superhero, and just experiencing this coming of age story in a place of warmth and culture of Harlem. All of those things I'm really excited for people to experience.
Yeah, and I'm excited for people to go on this journey with Miles, just figuring it out as he's figuring it out how to do things, how to accomplish certain goals that he wants to accomplish. And when it comes to combat, seeing the animations that were done for the finishers and throughout traversal, seeing all of the tricks, I definitely can't wait for everyone to see how many tricks there are. We could talk more on that later. The traversal, seeing how he's inexperienced, and something that I always kind of grew up with, my mom told me was like get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's how you grow. And I feel like that's something that Miles going through as he's learning, and that's why he's in these awkward positions. But if you're in these positions, how do you get yourself out of this? And I feel like going through that journey with Miles is definitely felt throughout the gameplay.
I love it. Okay, so we're about to get a chance to see the extended look at the PS5 gameplay of Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. But before we do, a quick note for the techies out there. So another thing that I love about this game, we'll be watching at 30 frames per second at high definition. That's 1080p for those of us out there who are like, what does that mean? And when you play Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales for PS5, though, you'll actually have options. You can play the game in performance mode, which optimizes for targeted 60 frames per second at 4K, or play in fidelity mode, which allows you to play at 30 frames per second with ray tracing, enhanced lighting, and additional visual effects. For those out there who are like, Angelique, please speak English. I don't know what that means. Or who are like, oh my God, this is great. Can both of you kind of explain why these options exist and why these options are so amazing?
Well, that's one of the amazing things about the power of the PS5 is we have so much more power to play with. We have near instant load, so you can basically go right from the start screen into the game in a matter of a couple seconds. It's truly amazing. And with you have 4K 30 frames per second, what ray tracing is, it's a tech word for reflections. So imagine every glass surface, every wet street, you're going to see perfect reflections all throughout the city. And it really brings New York to life. So if you really love that extra fidelity and you want that computer graphics high end, you're going to go for the fidelity mode. But if you want responsiveness and fast fluid frame rate, that butter smooth targeted 60 frames per second at 4K, that I have to say it's a really tough sell. James, do you have your favorite?
Yeah, I love to play in 60 just because it feels so smooth, and Miles just kind of glides across the screen. And again, it's that responsiveness and seeing all the little intricacies that we put into the animation of his personality throughout the gameplay and everything like that. You really get to see it in 60 frames per second. So that's my personal favorite to play in.
I love it. And I can't wait for folks to find out what their personal favorite is going to be. But in the meantime, we are going to get to this extended gameplay right now. So for those who are out there watching, we're going to be sticking around. We're not going anywhere. And honestly, James and Brian, as they're watching this, I hope that you will give folks some inside scoops on the awesomeness we're going to be able to see. So please note that we are going to be chiming in. There is going to be commentary. It is going to be so amazing. I'm sorry, that's all I got. It's Spider-Man. It's amazing. It's ultimate. It's superior. I'm ready for it. All right, then. It's time. Enough for me. Here comes a look at the extended PS5 gameplay of Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Gracias, chico.
De nada. That is so cool. I got you.
Hey, thanks.
No problem. Hey, you think you're gonna add that new Spider-Man too?
The kid? Yeah, maybe. Original's just my guy, you know?
Yeah, I know. Hey, is Teo's Bodega around here?
Yeah, bright yellow sign down the block. Can't miss it.
Thanks. Beautiful work, by the way. Maybe leave a little room for the new guy, just in case. The convoy.
All right, James, the transversal. Can we talk about this? It is so fresh, so new, so different, but also so unique. How do you even start?
Initially, I just wanted to make him feel different, and Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man, Peter was done so well. My first thought was, how do I even do anything different from that? What are some ideas I could try? So one of the first things was introducing this reverse fall mechanic that Miles can do, and I went about that just by that right there, trying to figure out a way to make him feel uncomfortable and different. It's something that I haven't seen in a video game before. And going from there and introducing some parkour, just throwing your body, just throwing your body around it and just out.
Word. Word. And I love this because in all of it, we talked about this uncomfortableness. Miles is in a new part of the city. Miles is a new home. There's so many details in Harlem for folks who have lived in New York, even for folks who have just visited, like that whole statement about there's gonna be, service on the Harlem line, right? In developing out the creative surroundings for Miles, like what was the first thought about this new move to Harlem and what really needed to be there, Ryan?
Yeah, the heart and soul of this game is Harlem. So we wanted to make sure that all the detail was going to be expressed in it. Murals in the wall, the culture, the people.
Very carefully. Okay, go time.
Helix 2 en route, heavy payload. Copy, Helix 2, we've got you on scope.
This is a big operation.
It's gotta be. Hundreds of felons escaped from the raft last year. Now it's time to move them back in. Police aren't taking any chances, especially not with our guest of honor.
Getting a lot of interference here.
One of those guys who helped Doc Ock is in there?
Think so. Could be Vulture, could be Scorpion, could be someone bigger. Okay, we got a problem. Hold back, Miles. Let me take...
I got this beat, don't worry.
Miles, no!
It's secure.
You're drifting, Helix 2. We have a weight imbalance. Correction 236. Rudder's unresponsive. Brace for impact. Helix 2 going down. Helix 2 is going down. Brace, brace, brace. Helix 2 is down. No casualties. Payload compromised. Response team dispatched. Sit tight, Helix 2.
Pete, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to.
It's okay. We got this. Just need to contain it before... Before that happens.
Hello, tiny spiders.
So one of the things I also love about this is Peter is off somewhere else doing his thing. They're really a team, and this fighting again back to like this whole unique, a little, he's still trying to figure out how to control movement and power. Like, are there any unique powers that Miles has that, fans should be looking out for? I know there's been some tease, but he does fight very different than Peter does.
Yeah, James, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. When making Miles, we wanted to make sure that it felt familiar but different. So because he's learned from Peter, there's some similarities, but like you see, like when he knocks the enemy up in the air, he's using his feet to knock him. He's about to get our rhino here. But he does things a little differently. He finds his own way to accomplish that same goal of knocking the person up, knocking them back, and of course, eventually using his bioelectrical powers and that comes to gameplay a lot.
Love it. And so I don't think it's a secret. Rhino is now in this situation. And I don't know about other folks. Like when you finally said tiny spider, I was like, oh, this is about to get real rambunctious. Are we gonna see any other villains that are familiar?
Absolutely. The idea of a rogues gallery and Spider-Man they go hand in hand. So Rhino, what's really compelling about him is we saw him in the first game when Miles didn't have powers. So now we get to fight him as a Spider-Man. He's going to manifest his first bioelectric power to defeat him and save his mentor. So that's a really exciting part of this journey. And then when we think about other villains, we wanted to make sure we brought something new. So now we're talking about the Tinkerer, who is the leader of the Underground. And this is a villain who's one of the oldest classic Spider-Man villains, but we refreshed the Tinkerer for a modern day. And they've created these amazing programmable matter weapons, which are these sci-fi weapons that can transform into any shape. So you're going to see a bunch of new villains in the game, and we've already teased Prowler, which is another classic Miles villain.
I love it.
How are we doing? 10 for generating spectacle, 1 for minimizing destruction. Tomorrow's Bugle headline's gonna be a doozy. Worst thing out of this is a bad headline? I'ma count us lucky. Oh, crap, doing her bad. Pete, this is starting to feel real bad, man. Don't think like that. We're going to stop him, as long as we work together. Speaking of, mind giving me a hand up here? Yeah, I got you. Okay, Pete. Yeah, I got this. Take it away, Capo. Whoa, wait, not the ball.
Hang on tight, tiny spider!
Spider-Man, hey! Need a little help? Hey! Whoa! Coming in high! Gotcha! And you're safe! You too! Wow! Do you have any non-destructive hobbies?
Fly fishing! On the Volga!
That sounds nice!
The power over life and death!
Oh, baby!
Excites me!
That's nice! Gotcha! Thank you! You're welcome! Don't scare baby! Hey! You know you're ruining Christmas, right?
The last 6 Christmases I was locked behind 30 feet of steel! I intend to enjoy this one! He's a menace! Yeah, too soft. He's a low-energy menace! Too easy. Maybe he's a weak-minded... Oh!
Hey, Jonah! Looking good! Very festive!
Menace! A feckless, treacherous, unhinged menace! Right here!
Yeah!
Mijo, ¿dónde está? It's getting late.
Hey, Mom! Yeah, coconut milk. Still trying to find it. Been kind of, an adventure.
Are you fine?
Yeah, sorry. Trying to catch a train.
Mira, no seas mentiroso. Grab the milk and hurry home, please.
Sí, ma. Te quiero mucho.
También te quiero.
Now or never, Miles. We gotta stop do we do?
Let us raise temperature.
Oh, bad, very bad. Pete, are you okay? No. Oh, no!
I'm okay. I've got him. Headed your way. Be ready.
Okay. Yeah. Might, need a minute.
There's so much to break down, so much spidery goodness. I love the fact that we got J. Jonah in Santa Claus suit. Darren DePaul is a brilliant human being. But at this point, like, we have gotten to see some major parts of New York City, and some major destruction and a lot of Easter eggs. Like, should folks just be paying attention, like the insomniac symbol and like the mall? Like, should folks be paying attention throughout 100%. This game?
You don't want to speak on the secret. They're everywhere, and the team brings those together. Like that insomniac sign, that was just one of our environment artists saying, "What if we had an insomniac sign?" And then I think James, you animated that, right?
Hey, I stole the sign from somewhere and just stuck it in there. It's like, hey, let's just go with this, and hopefully we can keep this in. So, and luckily the insomniac sign fake.
I love it. Also, I feel like, you know, the teamwork here, the assists that we get, like, it's so well crafted to spotlight Miles's powers. What should folks be looking out for as they're learning how to maneuver and like really do the gameplay in this game? Like, it seems like it is really accessible, but also there's so many little intimate details to it.
Yeah, I think the thing that's amazing about the system is it's got accessibility, but then it's hard to master. We're about to see a scene here that's super important to his art.
Pete! 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 Wake up! Wake up, man! Wake up, man!
This Spider-Man is broken. I would like to exchange for new one. This one will do.
Miles, get out of here! Bro. Back the hell? What was that?
You just saw Miles get his bioelectricity power for the first time to help save Peter Parker.
No one can see me. I'm losing it. It looks so amazing. Clearly this is one of Miles's core powers. It's so essential into making him different. What was the thought process on having him discover it at this moment, instead of him just knowing?
Well, we wanted to make sure there was an emotional moment tied to each of these powers manifesting. If you think about it, as in a coming-of-age story, your key moments influence your life. Saving his mentor was essential, and that's why that power came to save him.
And for you, James, like, there's so much amazing detail that's happening right now in this battle. You know, were there any particular challenges that you knew you just had to get them right? Particularly with Rhino.
Absolutely. I mean, Rhino's just a big guy to try to animate, and luckily we have some amazing animators here that did an amazing job bringing him to life and adding new moves to his arsenal, like this, like this move here, where Miles has to dodge over, figuring out what are the mechanics going to be for that, and this move. Well,
You know, man, chasing you through the city kind of felt like a wild, what's the word? Wild goose chase.
Wild goose? No. No! I hate chase of goose!
You alive? Kinda.
Guys? Wow, just... wow. Simon Krieger, head of R&D at Roxxon Energy. Pleasure to meet you.
You too. Sorry. I think our ball landed in your yard.
No, actually did us a favor. We just bought the place. We're planning to tear it down for a build. But looks like you beat us to it. I wanted to thank you, both of you. Taking down Rhino? Solo? You are going places, bud.
Thanks. But he's still dangerous.
Nah, we'll hold him for the police. You know, I always think these super troopers are overkill until something like this happens. Oh, duty calls. Hey, really great to meet you both. Future's looking bright. Hello. Hey.
He's right. Let's clear out. Let the police do their job.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
So we met a new character at the end of this who I guess we should be paying attention to.
Yeah, that's Simon Krieger. He's head of the New Form project for Roxxon. So he is definitely going to be a big player in the story.
Wow. So we're back from having seen this gameplay of Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales here on the special live stream brought to you by PlayStation and Marvel. I am here with James Ham and Brian Horton from Insomniac Games. And we said a lot during the gameplay, but also like we saw a little bit of where Miles is living now. We saw, Miles out with Peter, his mentor. We saw an incredible fight with Rhino. We saw Miles discover one of his patented powers. And then, as we mentioned a couple seconds ago, we were introduced to a new character we should be paying attention to. This game is absolutely beautiful. For you, James, like your work includes something that I think a lot of folks may not really think about as they're playing the game, but working with performance actors and stunt folks to really do this idea of motion capture. And back to something that I love to talk about, Miles's transversal. So for you, there's a lot of work on the animation side. There's a lot of work on the motion capture side. Are there any things that you can share with folks might be surprised to learn about the process of capturing and creating Miles, i.e. getting those tricks you were talking about together mid-swing?
So working with the stunt actors have been amazing. I mean, we have a great talented core of stunt people that we work with to pull off a lot of those moves, and then being able to be on stage with them and tell them like, hey, I want you to perform this move, but don't do it like a professional. Do it like you're just now learning how to do it. Add a little bit of imbalance to it. Actually helps to bring out that personality in that character to Miles. And when I was when I was developing the tricks for this game. I know early on, me and Brian talked, and Cam, we all talked about how could we make the tricks different and make them more unique for Miles, and we wanted to figure out a way to make more. So in developing tricks, what I started doing was I started with skateboarding and looking up what kind of skateboard tricks there are. What are some unique ones that I'm familiar with that Spider-Man could pull off? What are ones? What are rollerblading tricks? And all of these had great poses, but the one thing I kept running into was when you're doing these skateboarding tricks, you're only in the air for so long versus Spider-Man, he's in the air for 10, 15 seconds at a time, depending on how high you are. So I wanted something that could branch off of the skateboarding and rollerblading, and I wanted to keep those, but I wanted something more. So I ended up finding a lot of indoor skydiving competition clips, and a lot of his tricks ended up coming from that. And that was a big influence, just learning the body mechanics of that and kind of, in a sense, twirling your legs around to get momentum, to spin, to flip, and to do these all different things. And then also utilizing his webs in a way that Spider-Man could. And can I say how many, Brian?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we were able to get 30 tricks for Miles in this game. And every trick has a unique transition into another trick. And every trick also goes into a unique swing. So that way we can get that fluid. So that way Miles feels a lot more fluid when he's going back into swinging. So lots of transitions, looking at lots of comic book poses, because a lot of Spider-Man comic poses, those key ones a lot of times are when he's first shooting that web out. So trying to figure out where I can stick these poses from the comic books into the tricks, into him shooting the webs out, made it a lot more fluid, made it to feel unique for Miles and to make it really feel authentic to be Spider-Man.
I love it. And this is really and truly is a Miles Morales story. And we get to see some new things in Miles's life that we've touched on a little bit, but also the development, again, of Miles's powers. What do you feel like was important in bringing Miles's life to like his actual like everyday life, right? Like we see him in Thames and his jeans, and he's walking through the neighborhood. He's going to the bodega. He's picking up coconut milk for his mom. Like, what was important that you felt like needed to be a part of that cinematically and in gameplay, Brian?
The main thing was to bring Miles to life first. And if you notice, our front end, our start screen is Miles Morales in street clothes. We wanted to celebrate him as a character, as a person, and getting to know him was vital. The thing that's kind of cool is he's just moved to Harlem. This is his mother's childhood home, but he used to live in Brooklyn. So when he's getting to discover East Harlem, you, the player, are discovering East Harlem. So we wanted that sense of discovery in his performance. He gets to meet new people, and he gets to appreciate all the culture that we've painstakingly researched. All the beautiful murals, all the set dressing, the apartment is meticulously researched. And we talked to a lot of people. Evan Narcissus was a huge influence on us to make sure we have to have the bodega. We have to have the bodega cat. We have to make sure he looks clean and his clothes are on point. And, you know, we worked closely with the character artist, but there was a big part of cultural correctness, authenticity. That was the driving force behind this game.
I love that, because Miles is in for a pretty wild ride if this has indie indication. Were there any inspirations and motivations in creating the story arc itself? Because I feel like there's a lot we can not yet say, but he is going to be a more experienced Miles, it seems, by the end of this game.
Yeah, the journey is one of what kind of Spider-Man am I? What does it mean to be a hero? That was our focus, and that's the question he asked himself. And ultimately, he's going to be fighting for the people he loves, and to do so, he's got to grow. He's got to change. So you're going to see these bioelectric powers and these invisibility powers, these different unique moves that are specific to him, grow and manifest. And as he's learning them, you're learning them. So once again, we always want to put the player in the shoes of Miles, feeling like you're a part of that journey of his growth. And it's personal. It's worlds colliding. So you're going to see a lot of things where his best friend Genki Lee helps him with the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man app, or his mom Rio Morales is running for city council to fight for Harlem. So it's these characters that enrichen a Spider-Man story, and you can't separate human character stories from Spider-Man. Like the superhero and the regular worlds will collide, and that's the charm of this franchise.
I love it. And you actually brought up something that I think is really important to the game is that Miles has a lot of folks around him, right? He's got Genki, he's got his mom, Rio Morales, and he's got some other new folks that are going to be introduced, friends and family. For you, James, what does it also look like in bringing those interactions to life, right? Because it isn't all swinging. There is a lot more to Miles in this game and how it kind of plays out.
I feel like we really wanted people to get to know Miles for who he is as a person, and bringing those characters into his life, it enriches that. It shows that authenticity of him having a family, having his mother Rio be there for him, having his best friend Genki be there to help him and provide like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man app. It just brings this level of authenticity and something more modern that is very authentic for Miles.
I love it. And so I'm guessing that all of these characters are going to be on the app, which I think is clearly going to be important because it's been said more than once. So folks should be probably taking notes. Will the other characters have an impact on the storyline as it plays out?
I'll just say that part of what Miles has to learn is that this neighborhood he's just moved into has a bunch of people that are having issues, and the app allows them to directly interface with Miles as Spider-Man. So as he's helping them throughout the city, you're uncovering other secrets and stories that will hopefully make the neighborhood better. It truly is a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man story with the Tinker and Roxxon adding stakes. So when Roxxon moves in with the new form plant in the middle of Harlem, they're providing this tinderbox of a two-sided war between the underground and Roxxon, and Miles is in the middle, and he's got to figure out how to help the people in the smallest ways, like save a cat, to the largest ways, which is save the city, right? So that's kind of the essence of the character.
So I want to boil it down a little bit because we've talked about this idea that Miles is developing out, he's evolving, he's getting comfortable with his surroundings, and we've talked about these unique powers. James, what goes into bringing these powers to life? Because it's one thing for a character to be able to do it. It is another thing to bring that power across, for it to come across on screen within gameplay.
It takes lots of iterations. we did plenty of iterations to get this correct, trying to figure out what feels right for Miles, what's fun, what doesn't break gameplay flow, and especially with the Venom Punch, trying to figure out what feels good. How should the camera move around the character? Trying to get that composition to frame the enemy up was something that we really wanted to tackle, and making something that feels good ultimately is the plan, right? We want to make something that feels good for players and something that feels like you are Spider-Man. So doing multiple iterations on that, same with the Venom Dash that you've seen in the Venom Jump, and trying to figure out ways of making them feel good, making them feel unique, but also making them feel like Miles is discovering this for the first time. So trying to find that healthy balance of being unsure of it, but also trying to look cool. He's a teenager. He wants to look like he knows what he's doing. So trying to find that balance there was a lot that went into creating the Venom Punch, Dash, and Venom Jump.
Yeah, and Brian, for you, this does affect everything else within the story, within the dialogue, within Miles even has his own unique quips and his own unique humor. We'll put it that way. For you, how does the power play into that, but also, get to what James was kind of talking about, this idea of he's discovering this too at the same time?
Well, to James's point, as these new powers manifest, he'll start to get confident with them. Then we saw in the scene in the bridge that those powers interacted in a bad way with the new form, and it sort of resulted in the destruction of a bridge. So he's going to make mistakes. He's not going to be perfect, and that's part of his journey. You saw at the first scene, he tried to fix the thing with the helicopter. He's like, "I've got it, Pete," and then he tries his best, but sometimes he doesn't always make it. But he keeps trying. He keeps pushing. And the thing that's great about Miles is he's got a really good group of friends that help him along the way, including his mentor, Peter Parker, his friend, Genki Lee. And you're going to see that be a big part of his journey and growth as a character.
I love it. Well, another thing that I want to talk about is that suits are a big deal. I'm just gonna say it like that. for those who are looking forward to this, I know folks are also looking to see what the suits are going to be like. And there was a little bit of announcement that recently came out about an incredible Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse suit. And for those who haven't seen it yet, let's see that new announcement trailer before I start gushing and asking any more questions. It was James. Where do you start? It's so good. It's so good.
I mean, the team that put the team that put that trailer together did an amazing job, and then also the core team and the programmers to get that look, to feel like the Spider-Verse, the motion where it's playing on twos. They did an amazing job getting that to work, and that was something that we as animators, we just kind of asked, was like, hey, is this something that we could potentially do? And they were able to find a way to get that to work. And then I know I've seen the movie multiple times, and it definitely had an impact on this game. And looking at references, were like, oh yeah, Miles has this swag. So trying to come up with animations that feel similar, and some are references, and some just happen to be coincidental. We're making Spider-Man, we're making Miles, but like that was just a huge reference point for us. And trying to make it feel authentic to the movie, I think the whole team really wanted to push for that.
So let's take a step back. For those who may not be familiar, talk to me about what it means about on twos and the mechanics of bringing this to life, so that it is very key and core to this idea of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
So playing on twos is that thing that they did in the Spider-Verse, where when Miles is inexperienced and it looks like he's skipping a frame, every other frame. So he's not exactly, if Peter was animating 24 frames per second, Miles was animating 12. So he's skipping a frame and he's holding on a frame while the environment is still moving behind him. So that's what animating on twos is. It's kind of skipping a frame for a little bit, and it creates this inexperienced look. And as he gets better, in the movie at least, as he got better, he started to animate more on ones.
I love it. And much like Marvel's Spider-Man for PS4, we're in for some more suits. So I don't feel like this is the end of the suit conversation, because, the suits represent so many like cool moments in Spidey history, but also like this idea of bringing a new like look and feel to Miles. Like, should folks be paying attention, be ready for some suits that you maybe can't talk about yet?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole thing that sort of took fire was Peter has 60 years worth of suits that we could bring to bear. Miles has been around for about 9, so there aren't as many suits that he has available, but we wanted to make sure we brought the best ones forward. Gavin Goulden and the whole character art team really did an amazing job bringing the suits that you'd expect. So we've shown some of them, like the 2020 suit. That suit is just amazing. I swing through the game almost all the time when I have that suit, and it's got the sort of the glass look to the helmet, and the LED screens on the chest and then the eyes. I mean, the fact that we were able to animate the eyes in LED form, that's the kind of attention to detail that this team puts into our suits. It's not just a suit, it's like a suit plus. And the other thing I'll say about suits is they all come with different suit powers. So you're going to see different mods that we call them. One's a visor mod and one's a suit mod. So like, for instance, that on the twos thing that we were talking about for Into the Spider-Verse, you can put that on any suit you want, or you could turn it off, or you could use the burst cards where you see those flashy whiz bang pop cards come up. Those are all you get those when you earn the suits in the game. So it should be a lot of fun to get in the open world and then earn yourself some cool suits.
I love it because there's so much detail that goes into even the suits we've seen, the suits that we know we haven't seen. What can you tell me a little bit about the unique design elements that go into developing out these suits? Kind of even going back to this idea of the visors, the frame, like the different mods that you can give it. Like, how do you begin this kind of development, and what details should people be looking out for?
Yeah, ultimately, what we want to try to do is complement the experience you have through combat with new ingredients that are going to make that combat more interesting. So, for instance, we have some visor mods that when you turn those on, you could see these little lines that connect the visibility of one enemy to another. So when you're doing stealth, it'll help you assess, oh, that guy can see that guy, so I can't get in there yet. And then there's other mods that you can put on a suit that's going to enhance your bioelectric powers, and you'll actually have more ability to utilize those bioelectric powers. So we really want you to tune up your Spider-Man the way you want to, and that's what the mods allow you to do.
And I love that because in all of that, James, it seems like your job is very significant. When you talk about things like the mods and the call outs and the bam, the zooms, the different motions, like what is like it seems like it's hours and hours. Like it seems like it's going through, and like you would have this embedded in your brain at this point.
I mean, a lot of it's just working with the design team, figuring out what they want. And once we find a goal of what we want to achieve, they come to us like, this is what we want to achieve. And they come to the team of animators and it's, how do we achieve this? If we wanted to, and I don't want to go into spoilers of the skill tree just yet, but if they want a certain move to plus it, how could we make this work? And adding onto that, to the skill tree and to the gadgets to make sure that it feels right for gameplay. A lot of it's just iteration with them. Iteration with Brian and Cam a lot. So
I love it. Is there anything that for both of you, because we've already established that you are huge Miles Morales fans, that you felt like this is just, you saw it and you were like, oh man, this is it. Like, I can't believe we managed to get this into the game. I can't wait for folks to see this when it comes to the suits and the different powers and the combat and the gameplay.
James, you want to go first, and I'll wrap up?
You know what I'm gonna say.
Say it.
Between tricks, the finishers, and then photo mode. Photo mode is amazing. It's stellar in this game, and I don't know how many hours I've spent just swinging around the city. And I'm supposed to be working. I'm swinging around the city, and I'm like, this is a cool pose. Let me capture this in photo mode. Let me add some lights, and then pushing myself to see like, well, let me try it this way. And you can really create some unique stuff with photo mode. Lighting changes everything in photo mode. And yeah, the pictures you can create are, I don't know, just amazing. So
yeah, people should definitely check out your feeds for some of those amazing photos I've been following.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say two things I'm proud of. One, I'm just proud of this team for being able to put out a game with such passion and love for a character that we all cared about in a very challenging year. So one, I just want to say this team is, I'm just honored and privileged to work with everybody at Insomniac Games, Marvel Games, and SIE. So that's one. And two, I would say the thing I'm also most proud of is the authenticity and culture we brought to Harlem. Being able to interface with Harlem with the app and actually make these people come to life and make Harlem really the heart of this story. So those are the things I'm really proud of.
I love it. Well, James, Brian, thank you so much for being with us this evening. This has been an absolute pleasure. I have so many more questions that I cannot ask you right now because we are out of time. But this has been an amazing show. We got an extended look at the PS5 gameplay for Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales in this special live stream brought to you by PlayStation and Marvel. And a huge thank you once again to you, James, Brian, and all of the folks that brought this game to life, because as we know, much like a comic book, bringing games to life is a team effort. It is a team sport. I know both of you have touched on all those interactions. And for those of you at home who are watching, be sure to go pre-order Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales right now, so you can start playing the game with the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse suit and get early access to the other in-game goodies. So that being said, we are going to leave you with one last look at this amazing new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse suit. And thank you again for watching. I'm Angelique Roche. This is Marvel, your universe.